We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Back to 755 Forever. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic, and I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. Just got back from the dentist. AJ last night blew it sky high. In the ninth inning, he gives up a 2-run homer to Nimmo to turn a 3-2 lead into a 4-3 loss. The Braves had a chance to sweep the Mets. And I called that, by the way, didn't I? Sweep the Mets. But they didn't. They won 2 out of 3. They would have had a 5-game winning streak with sweeps over the Red Sox and the Mets. So that, I mean, it's crazy how we've seen how fast things can turn with one swing, how it could just change the mood around a team. I mean, I'm sure in the plane home and the bus to the airport, they were fine. But the fan base, what they would be right now if they had swept that and had a 5-game winning streak, coming off that 1-5 trip, they kind of reversed it. AJ gives up that home run to Nimmo, who was questionable for the game. If you remember, he left the previous game with a side strain, so I guess the Braves can hope for the same thing for Austin Riley after he left last night's game with a side strain. But AJ Minter, you and I talked about this off camera before and again today, but I looked up this year. Last year, he was good in save situations. This year, 2 different pitchers. AJ in non-save situations this year, 12 appearances, 1.69 ERA, 162 opponents average, 549 opponents OPS, 2 home runs allowed in 10 and 2/3 innings. He's been terrific. In save situations, 8 appearances, 7.50 ERA, 2.61 opponents average, 944 opponents OPS, 3 homers in 6 innings. He's 0-2 with 3 blown saves in 3. He's blown all 3 save opportunities in his 8 appearances in save situations.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I always felt, and it's when you get put in for a specific, like I'm the closer today, I always felt more adrenaline. I always felt more excited. I wanted to be better. I tried to be better. It's hard. This is why we talk about why comfort's so important in this game. And I can't speak for AJ because he's been in these situations and succeeded before, but there's just something about that 9th inning, something about getting the ball to get the last 3 out, something about the way the other team fights, how they're willing to cut down on their swings. Like if you come in the 6th or 7th inning, guys are still trying to put their numbers up. And then all of a sudden you get to the 9th and the 4-hole hitter's, he's trying to get his hit, but he's willing to slap a ball the other way and do things they won't do earlier in the game. Like that's when I think it's apparent to the other offense that this is it. This is our last shot. And that combined with, you trying to do a little too much sometimes in those situations because you want to be a closer and you want to show everybody what you got and have this big outing. I think sometimes it turns into a bad combo.
We should say last night, because somebody, a couple of people were, and Snick keeps running him out there. They say, well, last night he didn't have a choice. Because last night, this is where losing some depth, some of your elite depth with Pierce Johnson out, kills you last night because he'd have been the guy to put in there. And you had Jimenez and Iglesias down. And we've talked about how Snit, they are sticking to their guns as far as not using guys 3 in a row or 3 out of 4 or whatever. They're trying really hard to avoid that. And that's a direct result last night is what you get there. And
Iglesias had a 23 pitch and a 25 pitch outing too.
There you go.
So it's not like they weren't quick ones.
Right. So over the long haul, I totally understand, and I think we've seen so many bullpen injuries with the Braves in recent years. Or last year, you go into the postseason, your bullpen's not at full strength. Neither is your rotation. That's a bad combination. So this year, they are determined to have their best guys available and fresh as you can be for the postseason. Which, we've seen how important that is when you go in with one or two starters down, like the last couple of years in the postseason. If you have a full bullpen like the Braves have with their depth they have, it'll be a lot easier. Yeah. It'll be a lot easier to go into the postseason with one or two of your starters down or ailing or whatever, not at full strength. So you got to have one or the other. I mean, you can't have both your bullpen and your rotation kind of wheezing or going in for fighting things going into the postseason. So anyway, we'll see. The good news is Pierce Johnson should be back Friday, which is the first day he's eligible from the 15-day IL. And I think this little break should really help him. I expect him to come back in there really fresh. And it really was what he said, just soreness and nothing more than that. So he'll be back Friday probably. Austin Riley, we're going to find out shortly today about Austin Riley. He left last night's game with soreness in his side. The Braves called it a precautionary measure. I mean, people think the worst immediately. Oh, God, oblique, because you saw. But they didn't say. They said oblique when Sean Murphy left that game in the opening day, and also Sean Murphy took a swing, and you could see him grab it. It was really Austin Riley wasn't like that. He just felt some soreness during batting practice. Didn't mention it. Probably should have, because they would not have played him if he just said I was sore. Because I know some people saw that he had some soreness in batting practice. And they're like, well, why did he play? Well, he didn't tell anybody. He thought it was just something minor. He's never heard an oblique, and he thought it was something minor. He felt it in BP, and then he felt it again in the game, and that's when he mentioned it, and they took him out. So it's not the Braves' fault. I mean, they can't read the guy's mind. If he felt some soreness in batting practice and he didn't say anything, you don't have any way of knowing. This guy plays every day, every inning of every game. Yeah,
and there's always something like that you feel. During a 162-game season, every day you wake up and feel something. And
that's what he said.
A lot of times you can stretch it out and get it loose, and actually the act of batting practice and moving around field and grounders, as you get blood flowing, your heart rate up, your body kind of lets go and loosens up. And then when it doesn't, you go and tell him, like, this thing's still tight, and then you kind of yank the dude from the game and say, well, let's get you out of here before it turns into something. And that's what it looked more like, let's stop this before it turns into something, versus Murphy's swing looked like, he did something right there.
Right.
And Austin's looked a little different to me.
He felt the twinge or the pop Murphy did.
Yeah.
Austin just felt soreness. So
yeah.
And Nimmo, he felt something. He dropped bat the other night, and you could tell he felt something. So I was really surprised he was in there.
Wasn't it a little cooler in New York than Atlanta?
Yeah, 50s and rainy.
Yeah, so I think for whatever reason, like midsection, low back, obliques, all that stuff, for whatever reason, going from the warm weather to the cold, it seems like those things always pop up. Like that's when Murphy's happened. You go to colder weather for the opening series after being in Florida the whole time. I think that's kind of what was probably going on with Austin too. Just a little bit of trouble getting loose.
This is our second official injury report brought to you by Gerber and Holder, attorneys who only represent injured workers, sponsoring this injury report. Just like these Braves, if you've been hurt on the job, go to www.gerberholderlaw.com. That's GERBERHOLDER law.com. So Austin's day-to-day, we'll find out if he's day-to-day after he wakes up today, goes in, gets treatment, that kind of thing. People always want to know at 9 a.m. Anything new on Austin Riley? Well, they flew home last night.
Still asleep.
He's probably sleeping until probably 9, 10 at least. And then he's going to go to the ballpark. And unless he wakes up just aching, he's not going to call a trainer from home and go, I'm done, man.
You want them to have some time off too.
Right.
Yeah, you get to the park and you're probably straight to the training room when you get there, but you're not calling them at 9 a.m. unless it's like I'm the starting pitcher tonight, and they need to know if they need to make a move.
So that's when it's why people should know that's almost why we almost always find these things out after like 3 o'clock. when the clubhouse opens, and that we don't usually find out anything before that. So we'll see. Needless to say, even with Austin Riley struggling at the plate, they cannot afford to go long without him. He's looked on the verge of breaking out, and you know he's going to when he's gone this long slump, and he's probably right on the verge of going on a 3-week tear. And the good news is the kid they picked up the other day, they stick him in there last night, third base, and he's really slick defensively at shortstop, so I'm sure he's good over at third base as well. So they might not lose a whole lot defensively, even as good as Austin has been playing. Zack short. So he gets in there right last night. So, I mean, what if they need to get 1 or 2 days without Austin, that'd be fine. But like we said, we talked about, this guy's not a hitter, man. He's there strictly for his gloves. So
look fast, though. I mean, got to walk.
He can run. Yeah, that's what they liked about him, too. Yeah, that he can run. And that's not something Yorme does. So they did like they like the move and comes into play immediately. What do you know? Austin, man, we've talked about how much he's been struggling. And you know, he's shown some signs of popping out of this thing. He's hit some balls hard. But right now, looking at his numbers, he hit the home run on April 7th. Okay, he didn't hit another one until last week. Both him and Olsen have hit 1 home run since April 7th. 1 home run. 2 guys.
A lot of warning track balls, though.
Right, and Olsen, 2 guys you count on hitting 35 to 40, though, or more for Olsen.
Yeah, we're going to need more than 1.
Riley, last 29 games, going back to that April 7th, 29 games. He's hit 241 with a 674 OPS, 1 homer, 8 extra base hits. He's got more triples than homers in that 29 games. Austin Riley, more triples than homers. So 10 RBIs. We talked about this, the fact that Marcell Ozuna being on, with the exception of maybe Shohei, he's the hottest hitter in the majors, and they need every bit of what he is providing.
Yeah.
And he kept doing it. He had 2 RBIs last night. He had the go-ahead, would have been the game-winning RBI. I mean, he's showing no signs of slowing down. This guy's in a special place, man. And it really is really nice having him in that 5th hole, because maybe some of the RBIs that Olsen would have gotten last year, Ozuna's cleaning up for him and driving those in. He's leading the majors in RBIs by a healthy margin, despite having 5 fewer games played than the second guys on the list, Teoscar Hernandez. Ozuna's got 40 now. 40 RBIs in less than, 37 games. Teoscar Hernandez got 33 in 42 games. I mean, it's phenomenal, man, what he's doing.
Yeah, and he didn't try to do too much last night. You know, those situations, he just pounded a ball up the middle. I was impressed with the one off Ottavino, because you're almost sitting slider off that guy. That's his best pitch. And to get a sinker down and in and stay inside it and just barrel it up the middle like that first pitch. I mean, he didn't waste any time. And I think you can kind of sell out and look for the fastball. And if you look stupid on a slider, you look stupid. But still, I mean, that's a really tough at bat. And that guy, you have to be conscious of his slider, and he's still able to hit the fastball. His bat's just so fast. Man. I know we've said it a million times, but
so fast.
It's like he's swinging a twig.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Many people want to get into therapy but are afraid to jump off the proverbial diving board. I know, I've been there. But BetterHelp is a great option. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule in the modern day environment. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if the first one you match with isn't for you. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/755 today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/755 today to get 10% off your first month. One more time. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/755.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Frankly, I was not very good with my command at all. I was just shooting a lot of pitches all over, just felt like for a hitter or two throughout there, just kind of lost it a little bit. And, when you're going 3-2 on a lot of guys and you're walking 3 to 4, you're probably not going to be able to efficiently get through 9. So I had a good idea. I was fortunate enough that a lot of the balls, some of the hard hit balls just went at guys too.
You couldn't have been surprised that Max was pulled. I mean, obviously, it's just where we are in baseball right now. 7 hitless innings, and man, he had it going.
Yeah.
But 109 pitches. And if you're Snit, you're like, I like how Snit's done this twice now with him. He pulled him after 6 innings when he was at 100 pitches. You could say, all right, let's go batter to batter. But, you get a couple of quick outs, and all of a sudden you're going, okay, we're this close. And, I don't want to say it's going to be Johan Santana. But remember Johan Santana when left in to throw 130 pitches?
40, yeah, something like that.
Career was never the same after that. He was done. Threw the no-hitter. A no-hitter's not worth that, man, especially in today's day. Remember, there were so many of them a few years ago. The rule changes and all that. It's just not that important to
the shifts, too.
Your health. Yeah.
For me, it's the shifts. There used to be a no-hitter like every 3 or 4 years, it felt like.
Yeah.
Like it was a big deal. Every day I click on the MLB, scoreboard thing, and there's at least one game that's in the 5th with a no-hitter alert.
Right.
And it feels like there's 3 or 4 of them a year. So I just don't think a no-hitter means as much anymore. Maybe a perfect game, but even somebody threw a perfect game, I think, last year. Like, yeah. It's not the same. So you rack up 140 pitches or 130 on somebody like Max. It means so much to the franchise, and you're probably trying to sign him back.
There's no way. They weren't even going to think about it. I agree with you. No-hitters are not important, are not nearly as impactful anymore. Because they've diluted them, so many of them.
Yeah.
Combined no-hitters, and that's what this would have been if Iglesias hadn't given up the home run to JD Martinez with 2 out in the 9th. First would have been the first no-hitter for the Braves in 30 years, which is mind-boggling with their pitching pedigree. Yeah. But it would have been a combined no-hitter, and I'm with you on that. They just are not that big impressive combined no-hitters. I know they haven't had one, but they're going to have one now because that's what they're going to have is you're going to bring in relievers because you're not going to let the starter go 120 innings. So it's inevitable the Braves are going to have a combined no-hitter probably in the next, I would say this season, if not this season, within the next year or two because that's where we are. So the no-hitter, the combined no-hitters, I'm not impressed. A no-hitter is going to be really impressive because of what we just said, the pitch count thing. Yeah. Now, Max Fried could have done it when he threw that Maddox.
Yeah.
But getting a lot of early contact was why he was able to get a 3-hit shutout in 92 pitches because he had it didn't walk guys that night. No walks. He had 3 walks in this one.
I can't remember. I think Ubaldo threw a no-hitter against us in 2009.
Yeah.
It wasn't even an impressive game because he was behind in a lot of counts. I mean, we just didn't get a hit, but it wasn't like a dominant performance. Then I watched Scherzer throw one and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We have no chance today type of game. So there's a lot of different types of no-hitters happening. But yeah, just like a combined no-hitter, I don't think those mean anything. That's just good job. It'd be, if I participated in it, it'd be a cool ball to show my kids one day and have up on my man, like, hey, look at this as part of a no-hitter. But again, it's just, it's too common now. The hitting approach has changed. Guys there's not those guys that hit 280 with 4 home runs and play good second base and left field. They're not in your lineup anymore. And those were the guys that spoil the no-hitters. Now you got these slugging lineups. Everybody's trying to put up OPS. Strikeouts are way up. You got the shifts.
Yeah.
Like it's just not that. It's not something that's worth risking a guy's career for.
Yeah. Even though the shifts are outlawed, you still got a guy right behind second base and he hits a line
and
drop
the outfielders are placed perfectly. Your left fielder's in the right spot.
They got their card they look at.
Yep.
I mean, analytics have them placed perfectly.
And when you're dominating, those are the hits you give up. You know, you saw last night a home run ruin the no-hitter, but most of the time, like a guy like Max is pitching like that, you're going to get soft, bad contact, like a blooper or something like that. And now you got, for whatever reason, you got the second baseman standing in short right field and he catches it.
Yeah.
The same thing with like rollovers and hard stuff in the holes that would just sneak through and the guy had to lay out. Now he's camped in front of it and it just rolls right to him.
Right.
Like the defensive placement is so much better.
Yeah. So even though the shifts are outlawed, you're still getting a middle infielder behind second base. They just have to make sure they're not. So there's where so many hits are taken away.
Yep.
Line drive up the middle for forever. That was a base hit. Now it's right to the guy, you know? So anyway.
I remember we played a series against the Cubs in 2000, maybe 11 or 12. And it was right when all that was starting. And we had to hit like 6 line drives up the middle in big situations, and their second baseman or shortstop was just standing there catching it. And I was like, why are they playing there? You know, and it was just, that was where the game was headed.
Yeah. So that was one of the 6 no-hitters that I've covered. I thought I was going to miss this one. I wasn't in New York, so I thought I was going to miss one, but I haven't missed one since my first year on the beat, 95. I split the beat that year with Gordon Eads at the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale, covering the Marlins. And Gordon was from L.A., so he went out and covered the Dodgers series. Ramon Martinez threw one. This would have been like 3 months into my beat writing career. Ramon Martinez threw one against the Marlins, so I missed that one. But I haven't missed one since then of the teams I've covered or against or for. The Braves haven't thrown one. The last one they had, 94, with Mercker. And he threw the previous one-pitcher one, too. But the big 3, the Hall of Famers, none.
Yeah, that's
but
insane.
Maddox and Glavine pitched to contact, though. You know, Smoltzy's the one you thought might have done it, and he gave up one in the 9th inning at Philly one time.
Yeah, I think you can throw, you know, like a 20 strikeout game for me now is cooler than a no-hitter. Like that, it's the sheer dominance. But like that Kerry Wood game for me, when you go back and watch that, is still just the most, even though the zone's different, but just that is the most dominating pitching performance I could find on, you know, YouTube or anything.
Yeah, so you think the Ubaldo Jimenez, one of the 6 I've covered was a combined one by the Phillies, by the way, and I really don't even think about it, but it is one. And then Bumgarner, remember, pitched 7-inning no-hitter in the doubleheader game against the Braves. Yeah, he was dominant, but he didn't get.
He didn't even care.
Not considered no-hitter.
He didn't want credit for it. He's like, I don't know. We played 7 innings.
Right. But I think the bigger point, obviously, is Max Fried is absolutely dealing. Yeah. And I got to tell you, man, after his first couple of starts, I mean, I thought he'd still have a good season, but I didn't know how fast he could flip the switch and become Max Fried dominant. Right now, his last 4 starts, as good as ever. Yeah. And we've seen him really good. Like his a Cy Young runner-up season.
Yeah.
He is absolutely pitching his ass off right now, dude. His last 4 starts, you don't get much better than that. He took a no-hitter through 6 and got pulled, took a no-hitter through 7 and got pulled, threw a 3-hit shutout of Maddox against the Marlins. His rough start in that stretch, the only runs he gave up in those 4 runs were 4 at Dodger Stadium, and he didn't even throw bad out there.
No.
Yeah, but the other 3 have been just dominant.
It's just one of those things that when it happens at the start of the season, you know, everything's amplified. If he had these 2 starts in July, it'd be like, okay, he's hitting a rough patch. But when you do it to start the season, you know, everything becomes a bigger deal. But I've seen him throw some pitches in the last few starts that they're like 94 and cut what looks like a foot. I don't know if he's doing that on purpose or if he's just yanking it, or because it's not. I don't think it's getting classified as a cutter on the screen when I'm watching. But it's like almost a 94-mile-an-hour slider, and you'll see righties swing over the top of it.
He's got 5 or 6 pitches that he uses when he's going good, man.
Yeah.
He is a pitcher's pitcher, you know? There aren't many like him anymore, and he is – and still throws hard too, you know?
Yeah.
But he just carves guys up, and you don't see many technicians like him in the game much anymore. Scherzer's like that, you know, when he's healthy and good. I don't know if he's going to be anymore, but Scherzer late in his career was more like that, maybe threw a little harder, but a guy that used a ton of pitches, you know, intense. Max is so focused when he's on the mound. It's like a different guy. He's the most mild-mannered guy in the clubhouse, pleasant guy, you know. Looks like Mr. GQ. Hi, how you doing? You know, soft-spoken. And on the mound, he is just a different guy out there. That look on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes into that mode. And that's one thing that makes you not really worry about him. You know, he's still throwing 94, 95 with the curveball and however many other pitches, but it's his mentality. You know, when he hits that rough patch to start the season, he's not going to sweat it.
Dude,
he's still got the stuff.
Last 4 starts, 1.24 ERA, 0.76 opponents average in 4 starts.
Damn.
It's a 0.76 opponents average, 300 opponents OPS, while averaging nearly 7 1/3 innings. First 4 starts, 7.71 ERA, 3.29 opponents average, 8.55 opponents OPS. Lasted more than 5 innings once. It was mainly those 2 horrible starts to begin, but then the next 2 weren't very good. But the 4 cents have been, I mean, Jesus. And they totally need it, obviously. They need him, what he's doing now, with the offseason additions you made with Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez, who are both surpassing most reasonable expectations. Sale's dealing. I mean, he looks great right now. I really like that rotation, man. You keep those guys healthy, and then there's Charlie as a 4th. But I like their postseason chances if you can keep these guys healthy. It's a big if, but the way they're doing it and spacing it out, they don't have anybody that's even close to the, major league innings leaders because they're spacing it out. They're getting more rest than most teams.
That's fine.
And I think it's really smart because of what we talked about. But because you got to have you haven't gone into the postseason the last 2 years with your starting rotation with even 2 guys pitching their best. Everybody had issues, basically.
Yeah. Or something that Max had the illness or whatever it was and
lost 15
Charlie's
pounds.
banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at Max's numbers since 2020. He's 46-16 with a 2.7 ERA.
Yeah.
I mean, the only question with him has been, and I think why the long-term deal hasn't happened is, there's been questions about health. That's it. But somebody's going to pay for that.
If he keeps doing this, he's going to get a huge contract if he keeps this up. Yeah, he might be the most underrated of the elite pitchers in baseball, Because if you ask a fan outside of Atlanta, name the 5 best starters, nobody will include him. If you name 10 best, not many people will include it, and he's certainly one of the 10 best. And when he's pitching like he is right now, he's one of the 5 best. But they're getting what they're getting from those 3, and I swear, man, in the bullpen, despite the injuries, they've needed every bit of it because they're maintaining. They're 2 games behind the Phillies, but they would be a lot closer to 500 right now than where they are instead of having one of the best records in baseball if it wasn't for this great pitching they're getting. I mean, they are 24-13, 5-5 in their last 10. But when you look at the offense, it's amazing that they are where they are because the offense, I can't remember many times where the Braves have looked this mediocre offensively. When they've been great, that is, in the last few years. Before that, when you had some weaker offensive teams, like the year they won a World Series and you had to add a bunch of guys at the trade deadline, the whole outfield, Soler, Jock Peterson, and Duvall, and some guys took off down the stretch. But this team in the last, after leading in everything last year, tying a major league home run record, leading in average, OBP, slugging, almost everything last year, runs. This team in the last 18 games, and it's not as noticeable because they started out the first week, kind of picked up where they left off last year. The first 10 days, the last 18 games, they're 10-8 despite hitting .212 with a .285 OBP and a .618 team OPS. In 18 games, they're 10-8, and that's pitching right there. That's great pitching. Some timely hitting. Ozuna's had a lot of timely hits, but mostly it's pitching. They've scored 62 runs in those 18 games.
This is as bad as it's going to get. And I feel like a lot of times you watch the last however 2-3 years and you're like, I don't know if I've ever seen an offense like this.
Yeah.
So this type of stuff, it's going to happen. You're not going to be the best offense and hit 300 homers, every single year for 162. There's going to be stretches like this where a few guys are cold at the same time. Another guy gets hurt, but even then, with as bad as your offense could be, in my mind, this is as bad as their offense could be.
That's as bad as it could be.
They're still winning ball games.
It's for a normal team that has a lineup with 2 or 3 kind of average to below average hitters, 3 or 4.
This can happen.
Really good, couple of great hitters. It's going to happen. But you don't expect it from this team because it never happened last year. They never slumped for more than a week last year. And you're coming up on 3 weeks now. But you also never had your 3 best hitters. You got to include Ozuna in there, what he's done the last year. He's got to be in there as 4. But your 3 key guys, Acuña, Olsen, Riley, 3 of your top 4 hitters, you've never had struggling for weeks on end together. I mean,
I feel like the last few years it was one guy. You know, I'd be like, okay, Olsen's cold right now.
For September, he had a terrible September.
Riley's cold right now. Yeah. Like, it was one guy, but
and Acuña, never more than 5 games.
Never. Yeah. So that's what it takes. So it takes 3 guys to be really off their game. And Murphy's hurt. And
Harris just went through a dreadful slump.
Yeah.
Kelly had 3 hits in that 2 or 3 hits in that game after going 0 for 29. He was part of that too, right there for a while.
I think it all evens out, and you wind up, maybe this month or next month, there's a stretch of 2 weeks where we see the 5-homer game, 10-run game, back-to-back, stuff like that, where there's just blowouts in your bullpen and pitching staff kind of gets a blow.
It's just really nice to have the luxury of having a pitching staff that's good enough to carry your team to – the Phillies are the hottest team in baseball. They've been the best team in baseball, and the Braves are only 2 games behind them. Phillies got to be going, we still haven't shook these guys, and we know they're going to start hitting.
Well, yeah, you're sitting there saying we can't do better than this, and we only got a 2-game lead.
Right.
When you're playing like that, it doesn't feel. Sometimes it feels like it's never going to end. Like, this is just what we do. But if you're realistic, the ball's not going to bounce our way all season like this, and there's going to be a rough patch. And we're trying to shake this team that wins the division every year, 6 in a row, and they're all banged up. This guy's not hitting, that guy's not hitting. Like, I almost feel like when you're playing your ass off and can't shake a team is more frustrating than when you're playing your ass off and can't catch them.
Right. And it should be noted, too, as bad as the Braves offense have been recently, they just went through a stretch where they faced 3 straight, the best pitching teams in baseball.
Yep.
Guardians, Seattle, Dodgers, 3 straight series. The Braves pitching over the last this stretch that we're talking about, 3 weeks, has been 3rd best in baseball behind Seattle and Dodgers, the 2 teams they played back to back on that swing. So I know 1 and 5 sucked for a lot of people, but you got to look at the pitching they faced. I mean, that wasn't just good pitching; they faced some great pitching out there. And the Guardians before that pitched really well. So you got to take that in with it. You get a slumping team, some hitters that are slumping, and then you throw 3 straight series of really good pitching at them. It just deepens the slump. So I think
that's not how you get out of it.
Yeah, and I think they're due to break out of this in a major way when you look at some of what they got coming up.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of 755 Forever. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifydhealing.com/forever to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/forever. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Cubs could have a couple of good pitchers facing them. 3-game series that starts tonight. Weather forecast is not very good. Of course, we had unbelievable weather in Atlanta the last week, and now the team's home, and it's supposed to rain the next 3 days. But you got these 3, then you got a day off, then you got San Diego, 4-game series against the Padres. Padres are not that good. They're a disappointment, and they won't have the pitching that they faced here recently. Then 3 more against the Cubs up there. Then you got 3 against Pittsburgh. And I hope we get to see Mr. Skenes.
Jesus.
We saw the best power arm in baseball right now, but we also saw why he's still a young kid. I mean, as great as he came out throwing 101, Still gave up runs. Still ran some deep counts, walked a few guys, gave up some runs. I mean, he's not a finished product by any stretch, but my God, they just got to keep him healthy. But it's just a shame. You look and you almost think, okay, when you schedule the appointment with Meister, because we've just seen all these guys. I just don't know that the human arm can withstand throwing 101 miles an hour that many times in a game. He's a beast. Yeah. And his breaking ball's beastly.
Oh, all his stuff is disgusting.
Calls it a splinker.
Yeah, it's all disgusting. Have you seen somebody came out with a report? I wish I had it. This whole like limiting their innings in the minors and trying to protect guys it's been shown to not work at all. And I don't know if that's, my gut tells me it's just the fact that you used to see a guy throwing 101, it was a relief pitcher.
Yep.
And there were 3 of them in the game. And I don't think you're supposed to be able to throw 100 miles an hour for 7 innings. No. I don't think anybody's body can tolerate that, especially after watching, Strider's doing everything possible.
Everything
vegan.
possible.
He's every single thing possible and still tears his ligament. Like, I don't think, unless it's, maybe if it was a guy that was like 6'7", 240, and that was just his natural build.
Yeah.
Like he was just built to do that, like a Chapman. Chapman is just a specimen. But when you're seeing these guys, and Skenes is pretty big. No, and he didn't do it as a starter. But I don't know that anybody's ligament can tolerate that stress.
It comes out throwing 101. It doesn't even ease into it. Like, that was the great thing about Verlander. He'd come out throwing 94, 93, 94 in the first inning. By the 7th inning, he's throwing 98.
Yeah.
But he stayed healthy a lot longer.
I'd have to go back and watch Nolan Ryan starts, but I'm guessing he was throwing 94, 95 too. And there's a big difference between I got 101 in the tank and I pitch at 94 to 96. Yeah. And you had a big situation in the 7th, bases loaded. I got 10 pitches left. I'm going to air it out. So you're airing it out for maybe 4 fastballs or 7 fastballs or something like that versus I'm sitting 101 for 85 to 100 pitches.
Yeah. His fastball averaged over 100 miles an hour. Average in that game.
Yeah,
he threw like 17 at 101. I just don't think I don't think the body can withstand it. But I don't know, man. I have no doubt in my mind that it's max effort. It's not the innings total that's killing guys. It's max effort that's doing it. And I think Strider, you got to take into account, he had that really weird thing. It was a bone fragment that lodged into the ligament. So I think Strider was doing it really smart. And he was throwing 95, 96 most of the time. He wasn't throwing 99 like he did when he first came up. So I think if that had not happened, I really would like to see. I think Strider would have been fine. I really do. Yeah. Now, I don't know if it's going to be fine after this because he still had to have another elbow surgery and that ligament repaired again. That's
it's a new surgery, so it's hard to even.
Right.
I don't know if I'd say. I think the best term, maybe not max effort, but the term I like that is max capacity. Whether these guys are like, because when I think of max effort, I think of like almost seeing stars. You're trying to throw so hard.
Right.
I would do that, or like I would do that when I had games, and this was just for my ego, but I would do that if I had a game where I was throwing like a 93, 94 pretty easy, and I got to an 0-2 count, I'd shake to a fastball away and I'd air one out just to see what I could get. Maybe the hitter swings, but every time I did that, my fingertips and my pinky and ring finger would go numb. Wow. And I'd almost see stars, but then I'd take a little peek and I'd see like a 95 up there, pat myself on the back and get back to pitching. So I think of that as like max effort is like empty in the tank. But I think with the training that these guys have, the mobility, the strength, all this stuff, I think that their bodies are just operating at max capacity. Like, so they're just pitching at the peak of what their body's able to do. And that's the same kind, like, effort-wise, maybe they're not maxing out, but they're maxing out the capacity of their arm.
They're pushing the envelope on what the human body can handle.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they've gone past, obviously, where they've gone past it. The point that the human body can withstand it.
Yeah.
And the answer is not just lifting more weights and getting stronger here and there. I think that just there is a point where you go past what the human body can do. And it took steroids for the human body to be able to hit, that many home runs and to be able to produce that. Steroids did that. And long-term steroid, when guys did steroids for multiple years, look what happens. All these weird injuries start happening because ligaments and tendons cannot withstand
Keep
with
up.
the muscles. Yeah. I mean, look at A-Rod, all the shit he's had. He's already had like hip replacement or knee replacement or both,
Yeah.
you know? But he had all kinds of little stuff that go wrong. Bonds had that tendon go in his elbow when he had to wear the big brace after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, they're just operating at the very peak of what their body's capable of producing.
Yeah,
And that's all you're doing when you're training. The training it's not about like, the running used to be about just getting your heart rate up, getting, blood flowing and all this.
Right.
And yeah, you don't throw as fast when you're running as poles versus, you're running 10 max sprints as fast as you can. But the whole training idea behind throwing harder is training your body to produce more force. The squats, the sprints, the plyometrics, those throws you see guys do into a net where they're crow hopping 10 times and see if they can throw a ball 100.
Right.
All that stuff
That's stupid.
It's to create as much force as possible. And yeah, it works. Guys are throwing harder than ever, but that doesn't mean that your tendon's like, oh, okay, cool. Since we trained for this, I'm going to be able to tolerate it. It's just
you're not strengthening the tendons and ligaments.
No,
you can't strengthen those.
Yeah.
I thought Ryan Dempster had something that was actually a fresh take on this because you don't hear – it's hard to find a fresh take at this point. It's been exhausted, the whole subject.
Yeah.
But I thought Ryan Dempster made a good point. He said guys don't run enough. And by that he meant they're throwing so much, they're doing all the other stuff that guys used to do. And I used to see it all the time. I've covered this sport a long time, and pitchers used to run. On the days they weren't throwing, you saw them running in the outfield. You saw guys running stadium steps, but you saw pitchers running all the time. You hardly ever see pitchers running in the outfield anymore on the warning track. Back and forth,
that's what
poles.
I'm talking about, because it's a thought that cardio makes you slow.
Right.
So you train like a sprinter. But pitching 7 innings is not a sprint.
And he thought, when you do that, when you run and do distance running, because he used a lot of distance running, that it allows the lactic acid and all that kind of stuff to come out of the muscles. It loosens you up some. That kind of stuff that's not purely pitching, designed for that. He thought there was a real that it had a real value to a pitcher. It's just crazy that we saw it forever and ever. Running distance was part of pitching. Building stamina and all that. But now guys might get on the treadmill and all that, but you never see them running anymore. And you don't see guys running poles anymore in the outfield. It's all
about speed and force production and power. It's not about, getting your heart in crazy shape. I remember 2000, I don't know what it was. Jordan Schaefer got hurt. And this is back when pitchers ran. So we'd run our, 10, 15 sprints. We'd run our poles. We'd run our quarter pole. We'd do all this different running. And Schaefer was just a freak athlete, right? And I'm watching him, and the dude's shredded, and I'm trying to, get in shape all the time and do my shit. He runs like 5 sprints, and the guy's out of breath. He's gassed. And I'm like, how are you tired, dude? You got a 6-pack. Like, you're not in shape. So there's like different types of shape you can be in.
He was anaerobically in great shape, but not aerobically.
Yes. Right. And I think there's a big difference there. But yeah, I think he might be onto something with that, because now it's about all your training is to produce more force and throw faster. And I don't know if the teams even care. I mean, if guys never make it to R, but you got an unlimited supply of guys throwing upper 90s. Yeah. It doesn't, I mean, it's cheaper almost if guys don't make it to those points.
Pitchers and agents need to look out for their own interests in that regard. Because the teams can replace you, especially if they're not signed to a long-term deal. And the smart teams aren't giving the long-term deals to pitchers, man. Until something changes, it's not a great investment.
Not when they're throwing 101.
But yeah, they're going out there and basically they're being told, go out there, don't pace, and go out there and go as hard as you can for as long as you can. Then we'll put at 5th inning, we'll bring in the bullpen. Where guys used to pace and they got in great shape so they could go out and throw 8 innings, 7 innings, and be aerobically conditioned to last that long and pace themselves and pitch, not just every pitch.
Yeah. Well, and that's the point too, is if your training is, if you've got your heart in shape, you're not throwing tired throws in the 6th, 7th inning. I mean, there's nothing you can do versus that compares to actually going deep into the games and doing it. But if your training isn't for your heart, if it's just for speed, you get into those 6th, 7th innings and you see 96 on there instead of 100, you start trying harder to reach it.
Yeah. Yeah. You see a lanky guy like Fried or even Charlie. Charlie's 40 though, but Fried, he never looks tired out there either.
No.
You know, he's going deep into games. He looks the same in the sixth inning as he did in the first. Never breathing hard, never gassed.
His delivery's pretty clean. I mean, he delivers with like length and leverage. He's not like powering through his throws. He's quick and athletic, so that's just there. But it's not like Max has put on. I'd be worried about Max if he'd put on like 30 pounds since 2010 or something like that. His body's looked the same the whole time, and same with Charlie's. I bet Charlie still runs.
And then there's Chris Sale, who's built like a marathon runner.
Yeah.
Skinniest elite guy I've ever seen in baseball.
That's what I heard. There's just, I don't know. There's no way to figure out how to keep pitchers healthy. There's no answer to it. But I do agree with you that throwing 101 is going to be tough to maintain.
I mean, it's what Snit was talking about it the other day too. Off the record, he was saying, it's almost like you want to schedule an appointment with the doctor in Texas. It's just sad. That's where we are though, and it's like a self-perpetuating thing. I think young pitchers that are trying to be established and make it, feel like they have to do that to stand out. Well,
you're not even getting drafted throwing 88. And I remember talking to a high school kid. I think I told this story already, but I remember talking to a high school kid. He'd gone to a showcase, and the coach at one of the major D1 colleges in the state said he doesn't even look at kids throwing under 93.
Yeah.
So I can teach these kids all about pitching. Too. Yeah, I could teach these kids all about pitching and how to throw a slider and whatever, but all they want to know from me is like, what do I do to throw harder?
Right.
Because that's their only shot to keep playing. And it's even worse in the big leagues. Like now, if you throw 92, 93, you better be Jesse Chavez and be able to hit a gnat's ass and make it cut, sink, and move on both sides of the plate, or you're not even getting talked to.
I thought Elder pitched well last night, by the way, speaking of 92.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he pitched well.
He was throwing that sinker glove side, the comeback sinker, front door to lefties, back door to righties. That's that ball to strike pitch that I think is huge for him. Yeah.
Okay. Well, 3-game series against the Cubs. We'll talk again on Thursday on the off day, and we'll find out some Austin Riley news. You guys pay attention. I'll tweet it as soon as I hear anything, and we'll find that out probably in a few hours. But thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching us on YouTube, and we'll do it again on Thursday. We'll take some questions, I think, next time. All right? Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. 755 forever.